I would also like to see greater emphasis on the legal status of those pursuing perhaps civilian opportunities while still serving in a regular unit. I think that's important as well. I know from personal experience that many reservists experience regular discrimination when looking at civilian career opportunities. I remember when I was at university looking at a part-time job, and because I was also a reservist, I wasn't offered that job because I could tell at the interview as soon as I mentioned that they weren't interested in me pursuing that. And I think it's important that we promote, not just from a passive sense, the opportunities of skills and experience of having served in the reserves, but also legally providing protected status for that. And similarly, that should feed into how this bill will consider regulars transitioning into some form of civilian employment as well as serving in a regular capacity. I think that is critical. I am very sympathetic to the sentiments that you've offered the House on that particular aspect of this bill. And I, reflecting actually this weekend, one of my close friends actually was celebrating an early Christmas with his infant daughter because he's about to deploy on active service in Afghanistan. And that's just an insight to the extraordinary depth of commitment and sacrifice that our armed forces made, unlike any other public servants, I think, and we should really uphold that. And the comments offered tonight on, for example, respecting the covenant in terms of the pay cap and reflecting the remuneration of our armed forces should really enter into that. When we're talking about serving without fear or favour 24 hours a day on exercise or on operations overseas, does the compensation for that severe dislocation from civilian interaction or from family life really reflect the commitment they are making? I think we ought to consider that as well. But I would like to see greater opportunity explored and how we aren't just using this as a cost-cutting exercise, but we're actually using it to enhance the capability of our armed forces, and particularly our army, given that the staffing and the manning levels have fallen below the target of 82,000 to 80,000. And I feel that if this bill can be that, and it can be a harbinger to a greater enhancement of the armed forces in the future by harnessing the potential of our people, both within civilian and military life, to add to our military capability, that will be a welcome move forward in our army and our armed forces as a whole. I think also of the transition and the stress that many regulars feel when moving to civilian life, and perhaps this could also be used as an opportunity to help transition people who are leaving the armed forces on a longer-term basis into a civilian career opportunity without that cliff edge of simply being thrown out or leaving the army in a sort of very sudden fashion after a sort of 20 or more years of institutional service, as it were, and the pressures and stresses that might bring. So I feel if those aspects can be considered in more detail through the course of this bill, it would be a welcome move, and I'm happy to support that progression. Thank you.